Hi, everyone. My name is Adeo. I'm CEO of Decile Group. We got a pretty good turnout today. We're going to be talking about what it means to be an agentic VC in 2025. So, one of the world is changing pretty dramatically. I'm sure you're all aware of it. You're seeing AI moving along, but really, what is not well understood unless you're really on the front lines, and we're really on the front lines, okay? In terms of companies executing I would say that Decile Group, I'm wearing the t-shirt today if you can see it, matching, in case you're wondering. Decile Group is the market leader of companies that have rolled out AI in a tactical way. And I want to talk to you a little bit about what we've done and about things that you should know. And then we'll talk about agentic AI and the importance to VC. But before I go into any of that, let me just say one very important thing. So AI is, as we know it today, is largely a language model, though there's some multimodal capabilities with video and audio as well. But it's largely a language model. And it's only as good as the training data that it's given. Now, models can also learn, right? So you can give it new training data to learn. But if a model doesn't know about particle physics, it can't talk about particle physics. It might speculate that there's such a thing as particle physics, might be able to guess its way around some context, like it invents acronyms. When you put in an acronym, it will make up words that it thinks might be the acronym. So it might be able to fabricate some stuff, but unless the training data has it, it's pretty much in the dark. That's the standard of models today. I think models in the future may be different, but that's where we are today. And so the everyone here is interested in agentic capabilities for venture capital, but the core problem is that there's no training data on the internet for venture capital. Okay? So you have some famous people like Fred Wilson, to some extent, Mark Andreessen, and others, Reid Hoffman, etc., Paul Graham, that have written about investment and entrepreneurship. So it's not totally clueless, but there's not really great written materials about how venture capital works. And I'll give you a very easy example. I was asking a model to build a financial model for a fund, and I would talk about dilution. All right. We could all safely say, and I'd like to see in the chat right now, can we all say that dilution is a fairly easy concept to understand? If you think dilution is complicated, say it's complicated. Otherwise, you can write in the chat, it's easy. Can we all agree that? I'd love to see your thought. Yeah, dilution's relatively easy. I agree, Julie. It's not super easy, but it's certainly not one of the more complicated concepts in venture capital. So I built this AI to run a simulation of your fund, and I use multiple models: Grok, OpenAI, Anthropic, etc. And it literally did not know how to calculate dilution. And it tried, right? I was like, and it was just wrong. It actually got it kind of backwards or just completely wrong. And I was thinking about this. I'm like, how do none of these models know how to calculate dilution? And it's just because the training data doesn't have how to do dilution. And so the training data does not know how to form a venture capital firm and fund, okay, either. The training data doesn't know best practices to engage with limited partners. Because if you look at stuff on the internet that is used to train the AI, there's just not a lot of dialogue by venture capitalists about how to do that. right? They'll talk about what they like in founders, they'll talk about their theories of business and markets. They'll, because those are interesting, but when you get into the nitty gritty, no one writes about this stuff. And so there is some sparse information here and there. And one, they're written by lawyers. Two, they're written by people that are learning in like Kaufman Fellows or something like that. And they're like, write an article about this. And the Kaufman Fellow person will write something, but they don't know what they're talking about. They're in Kaufman Fellows. Or there may be people that did it 20 or 30 years ago and like wrote a blog about, oh, it was really hard to start my fund 20 years ago. And, you know, here's what happened 20 years ago. And that's so kids, lawyers, and dinosaurs compose the information that modern LLMs use. So, in fact, actually, venture capital is really weird in that most modern AI is ill equipped, ill trained to help you run your venture capital firm and fund. Like, so if you're going to ChatGPT and you're going to Grok and you're going to Anthropic, Claude, or whatever, garbage in is garbage out. You're going to get junk because it doesn't have the core training information to help you. So when we set out to really be on the leading edge of what AI can do, the foundational models suck. Okay. I need to tell you this because many of you are like, oh, I just built this thing in AI. It's going to be amazing, right? It's not going to be amazing. And I'll tell you why it's not going to be amazing because it doesn't know what it's doing. It's like you would take a high school student and be like, I need a DCF, which stands for discounted cash flow. Can you run this DCF? Now, the AI models know how to run DCFs because every banker, every Wall Street person, etc., needs to run DCFs. There's tons of written materials about how to do the DCF. So you can get a great DCF, discounted cash flow, from a model, but you can't get one piece of good advice about how to close a venture capital fund, deal with limited partners in a venture capital fund, and you probably can get some pretty good deal advice on venture capital, but that's about it. And some market advice on venture capital could also be pretty good. So, in order for us to build an agentic tool set for you to use, we had to create a knowledge base. So, I'll just start. Maybe I'll before I show you, I'll just tell you what I did, and then I'll show you. Okay. So we built this massive knowledge base, and that acts. We use it with a RAG, which allows an LLM to call in the relevant data. And these model context windows are getting so big that we can actually call in a lot of relevant information and get you really, really good answers, right? So that was the first thing we needed to do to build an agentic model. After we built the training data and the systems for that training data to interact with modern models, that's great. But then we needed the modern models to interact with the wider system that we built. So you can use that to update your thesis. You can use that to create an event. You can use that to edit a prospect or update a limited partner. So we created plumbing to connect the knowledge, the AI systems with our various data pools and functions that the system uses. So that's the plumbing. And then last but not least, we're like, listen, that's great. You've got the training, the model, the plumbing, but now we need to intelligently connect the user's data with the AI, keeping security and privacy in mind so that you can ask it questions and get really good answers, right? Without having to worry about your data being shared or leaked or whatever. So we built all that. That was the entire infrastructure. I'm going to show it to you and then I'm going to show you what you can do. But let me tell you before I show you one last thing, okay? And has this been useful so far? Maybe you could let me know in the chat with a yes, super useful, or show me, show me. But I'll finish with one point. Hopefully it's been useful. Let me know in the chat. Okay. Last point before we show. Let's see it. Okay. um, so all this is going to a place where you're going to have essentially an AI co-founder to your fund and firm that you can talk to via voice or via text and have it do things on your behalf while you're waiting, while you're offline, and it will be an agentic experience. So you'll have a co-founder to your firm and fund. All right, everyone's like, show, show, show. Okay, fine, show. So the first thing I want to show is we have a brand new UI and it's way better. So our old UI, it will take a second. It looked like this. Maybe I need to shift reload to get my little logo up here. But you had the stuff in the side. The new UI, much better looking, cleaner, simpler. So we're super proud of the new UI. But I know you didn't come here to see the UI. You came here to see the stuff. So I want to just give you, show you a couple things that we discussed. So you've got an admin area, which is our area. I expanded the wrong thing. I wanted to expand this. So remember I said we built all the training data. So I'll just show you. We have this massive community stuff. Can venture capital be insured? How does the GP discretion to force an LP withdrawal create a power imbalance? And so we're getting all these questions. Now, these are relatively new, right? So they haven't been answered yet and they get upvoted. So we built our own Stack Overflow. And I think we're now at like 30 or 40,000 questions. And we've have experts in accounting, experts in legal, experts in uh, tax, experts in everything come in and answer these questions um, for the different the different users. And that's built a corpus of training materials. So then you can really just ask anything and it will give you an answer, right? So that was a training. So up here, this search hub or ask a question, this is our agentic AI area. And what it allows you to do is really just, you can put in anything. Like there's a guy named Travis Giggy. So if I put in, and he's our head of engineering. So if I just put in Travs, the agentic system right now is trying to say, this might be a person. So I'm going to search for Travs across different things and see what you're looking for. Hey, do you mean Travis Giggy? So it kind of nailed it right off the bat. But then it's like, oh, this guy, John Booth, has Travis in his email. Maybe you mean that. There's an investor product with a 75% so Travis. So pretty much with a misspelling of a name in the agentic bar was able to guess maybe you mean Travis, right? Misspelled. And so what I'm going to do is I'll go search for Travis and different things and give you all these things. It not only searched people, it searched investor prospects, it searched files, and then you can go and do all sorts of additional things. So that's an example of where you put kind of gibberish in the agentic search bar. It guessed what you meant and found it. But you can ask it like all sorts of things. How do I do a capital call? Right? So now it's going to say, hey, This is likely a someone's trying to call me here, so I'm going to try and turn my phone off, which I probably should have done before I started. And so it's going to say, "Oh, this is a question." Right? So I'm going to look through all of our knowledge base and I have a debug view so I get to see what's going on and it's going to give you an answer. And you can even do things. I had a meeting with Travis and I want to add uh So I had a meeting with Travis and I want to add notes that it went well, right? So now it can find Travis and add notes to that Travis. I'll help you find Travis and add notes in your meeting, right? Entity search. So are you going for this Travis, right? So it can do all these powerful things and it's agentic because you just tell it what you want to do and it will go do it. You can do a capital call, you can update records on Travis, you can do all sorts of stuff just from a text interface. Now that's really great. But as I brought up before, LLMs, even our LLM, doesn't know everything. It doesn't know things like dilution. It doesn't know, and that's just it will get there, right? First of all, I want to see so far, do people think that's pretty cool? You can write so in the chat. And I want to show you some other really cool things. So we've that's like your agentic kind of, it can do anything and everything in one area. But because the AI models are a little bit primitive, right? We've built specialty tools to help you do certain things. So let's test some of those tools out. We call them AI toolkits, and we have a nice list right here in the top. And there are some really cool ones here. Um, Maybe I'll start with a really basic one, and then I'll go to one that will kind of blow your mind because I think we got to work our way up. If we go to blow your mind, it's like, all right. So here, I want to learn to be a VC. Pops it open. It says here are all the things you want to know. Let's go to fund economics and the power law, right? And now it's going to dynamically build. It knows conversations you've had with it before, and it's going to dynamically build a course on the power law and fund economics specifically for you. Okay. So let's say I want to take a quiz, right? And it's going to it's going to build now a dynamic quiz on the fly. What does the 2 and 20 model in venture capital mean? 2% carried interest and 20% management fees, 2% management fees. Let's get the right answer here. So it actually will build this dynamic quiz. And by the way, if you get things wrong, it will realize that, fix it up for you, and help you and grade you and tell you how you're doing and help deepen your knowledge, all adaptive. That's a really easy example. Not that impressive, but the thing is, it's building all of this user interface on the fly. It's building all of the content on the fly. And if we, for example, change content because a law changes or something else changes in the world, this gets up to date in real time. So it's not like a textbook that was printed 3 years ago and is no longer relevant. This is stuff that's relevant immediately today. But that's cool, but not super cool. Let me show you some super cool things. So one of the really challenging things to do is build a fund model, right? So seven, create your fund projections, right? So, and remember, we had to teach it how to calculate dilution. So it says, all right, you're building a fund, it knows my fund thesis, and says, okay, how many deals are you going to do? Let's say we're going to do 10 deals. So it's a conviction based model. Um, how big is our biggest exit? Let's say it's going to be $1 billion, and our medium sized exit might be 500 million, and our smallest exit might be 100 million. Okay. Let's say it's going to be a start fund. And then we're going to hit submit. Now it's going to take this information. This form, everything was built on the fly. It's going to build me a 10 company portfolio model on the fly, calculating full dilution, everything. So it says, look, if your average investment amount is this and your target valuation is that, you're going to get this ownership and all this stuff. And it figures it all out. It tells you, hey, you're going to get, wow, 123 million. Now, I made these numbers really big, so that makes sense. And you're going to get a 403 TVPI, talk about your management fees and everything else. So you say, this is good, but it's a little bit wrong because it has me at a high ownership percentage, right? So you could say target maybe a 15% ownership, right? Now, what's really cool, let me spell, you don't even need to spell it correctly, but I'm in a demo, maybe I spell it correctly. If now before you'd have to go into Excel, you'd have to model all this crap out, you'd have to change the ownership percentage into a plug value. Sometimes the ownership would be at end state, so you'd have to turn it into a plug value. This could take a lot of time. I just said turn I want to own 15%. Boom, return, and it's gonna rebuild the entire model right now with me getting to a 15% target model, right? So if I go back up here, target ownership 15%. Now that I have less ownership, my TVPI is going down, right? And voila. So I want everyone just to take a moment. How cool is that? Right? How cool is that? That's pretty cool, right? Like just to get to a model would take you usually hours. Okay. And then you certainly couldn't chat with it, right? You couldn't be like, no, I think this is a little high. So, so we can even do things like I am targeting a 4.2 TVPI in the high scenario. Okay. And so TVPI is a bottom of the funnel metric. So all these other things, so you'd normally be moving different sliders around to get to a 4.2 TVPI. And see, now it's rationing how to do that. Hi, Sam. We need to adjust either. So awesome. It's like, okay, if you want to target a 4.2 TVPI, you need to do something. How would you like to do this? Increase the exit values, improve the success rate, add more high value exit. Let's do a combination approach. Isn't that cool? I mean, how cool is that? It's like, oh, you want to do this? Well, in order to do that, you need to do one of these things. And then tells you what you have to do and lets you pick. And then let's see where we get to. Up, there we go. So this was hours, hours of work playing with different numbers, figuring it out. We just did that in seconds, right? This is someone's asking, can it compare your target returns for your fund against historical industry benchmarks? It does have, okay, let's ask. Of course, spelling it. How does this compare to industry benchmarks, right? I spelt it wrong, but whatever. Um, Typing and talking and being excited at the same time can be a little bit different. So let's see what it says. So it does have industry benchmarks in the data, right? So yeah, so there you go. It will do it for you. Uh, so the problem is there's a lot of different industry benchmarks, Michael. So we have like what we would call sort of well-known and accepted industry benchmarks, but you could like they're all different kinds of organizations that produce numbers. Uh, Preqin is pretty good. Cambridge Associates is pretty good. Carta and PitchBook are pretty bad. So what we've done is we say we know what reputable benchmarks are. So yes, it can do that. And by the way, that's just one. There's a lot. In fact, I'll show you some others, but yeah, exactly. This stuff is pretty neat, right? So it helps you do everything, right? I'll show you another one. This one's pretty cool. So if you want to go pitch people when you're just starting a fund, you gotta like pick people you know because that's the law. You have to know people to pitch them. So you say, I want to pitch Alex. Alex is my brother. He's a family member, and I'm gonna do it in a friendly style. Okay. So it's going to say, okay, Alex is a family member. Here's an email you can send him. Okay. Here's the things you should say. Here's some questions you want to ask about your thesis. And that's all great, right? And then it will say, what do you want to do? I'd actually want to role play with Alex. So I'm going to hit that. And what's really cool is when it's done creating this next thing, you'll see that I'll show it to you. You can actually talk with it, right? So as soon as it's done, so you see this little icon right there, that little speech icon. Unfortunately, it doesn't work on Zoom. Maybe we can have the engineers fix that at some point because Zoom hogs your mic. Um, but you can click that button and talk with it. So it's just like you're pitching your brother in this case. So your brother will say, hey, good to see you. You mentioned you want to talk about this investment fund idea. I'm curious, but also a little surprised. I've wanted to be a fund manager for years. Let's just say that, right? Let's see how it. So I reply, I could normally just say something, right? So what it's going to do now is going to take my answer and given the context of a friendly thing, it will rate it, give me strategic advice, um, talk to me about, give me a better answer to give me an 8 or 9 out of 10. And then it will actually then give me a response and I can continue the dialogue. And so the AI toolkits do all sorts of really neat things. I want to show so many. It can build your pitch deck. Uh, it could do the fund projections, which we saw. I want to show probably one of our newest ones, which I just think is so cool. So we just Ask a Venture Legend. So we built this. This one's really cool. So there's quite a few famous VCs out there that blog a lot. Mark Andreessen, Paul Graham, Bill Gurley, Reid Hoffman. There's some others. And if you have suggestions of others, I'm really open to hear what they are. But you can ask these people for help and the AI will impersonate them based on all of their written materials. So you get really good answers like, I am looking at a deal in AI with a $100 million pre-money seed valuation. I am concerned about the price. Okay. So now you're going to put this scenario, and I'll make this a little bit larger for everybody, and you're going to get the response and the thinking of Mark Andreessen, Paul Graham, Bill Gurley, and Reid Hoffman all in one reply. And speaking in their voice. So let me just so it doesn't look if it's a truly transformative AI company with the right team, they're building something that could be worth 10 or 100 billion, then 100 million seed valuation is irrelevant. The venture capital model about power law returns. Um, Paul Graham, this makes me nervous. 100 million seeds suggests the company has lost the plot what seed stage actually means. Okay, that's pretty good, Paul. Thank you for that. Bill Gurley, this is exactly what's wrong with the current AI bubble. 100 million seed value is absurd on its face. You're paying Series B or Series C prices. Reid Hoffman's sake, the valuation question is actually the wrong question. You need to think about network position and strategic timing. Is the company poised to become the platform or the build on? So very interesting, right? So, and then look at this consolidated guidance. So it impersonates each of these people because they have such a corpus of material on their thinking, and then it consolidates that into things for you to think about. So these tools are getting very powerful. And in fact, I'll show you Steve Blank. Steve Blank would be great. Boom. Thank you, Mitchell. I'm looking for one more. I'd like to get five. I like Steve Blank's thinking a lot. Eric Ries could be another, but he's not really an investor, Eric Ries. Brad Feld would be really good as well. Ooh, you know what we should do, guys? You've inspired me. Well, you can pick the people you want feedback from. Vinod is great too. So you could actually, we can make it like a checkbox. You could pick the people you want feedback from when you ask the question, and then you'll get their feedback. And this is only possible because these people have written a lot, right? And they've talked in public a lot. So their Naval Ravikant is also good because so you have how they think and you can apply it to your problems. But you know who else has written a lot? Um, Anyone want to take a guess who else has written a lot? Me. Yeah, exactly. Adeo. There you go. So we have actually another one down here, the AI advisor. This is so cool. So we'll show this one. So this is, of course, because we laid in all the training data, built all the plumbing, things like this are possible. So what's happening right now is it's taking all the information about how your fund is performing, and it's then taking that information and taking all of the advice from myself and my partner Mike Supervici on exactly where you are, and then it's turning it in to advice from Mike and I to you. So it says fund status, the more current sample fund one's closing stage has four blah. So it tells you about where you are. Advice. You're a classic stuck in the middle scenario. We can make this a little bigger. So this is Mike and I's advice to you. Stop making excuses, start making moves. Don't get distracted by portfolio. You need 90% focused on closing. Consider whether your 10 million target is realistic or you should lower the number. And then it turns Mike and my advice into a 2-week plan, a 4-week plan, and an 8-week plan, and gives you immediate next steps, right? So what we've done is we said, hey, Mike and I have helped at this point a few thousand managers launch funds, of which about 1,000 have launched. So we've helped a few thousand and 1,000 have launched. And so we've written tons of things to all these people in all these different circumstances. The AI is able to take your exact circumstance, our historical advice, and apply it exactly to what you are facing at the moment. And it's like having Adeo and Mike on your team, or in the other case, Mark Andreessen or Paul Graham on your team, giving you exact advice to something that you're facing right now. And in this case, you don't even need to ask it. It knows where you are because it's using that information of where you are to inform the AI version of myself and Mike to give you very, very specific advice. Now, look, this is just the beginning. There is a lot of stuff and there isn't a ton of time. So if you do have questions, get in the Q&A. I do want to show, there's so many things to show. I want to show definitely one or two other things. So some of you have probably seen this before. There are two other really cool things I want to show, and then we'll go over to questions. Okay, so some of you have seen this before, the whole investor side, right? So this is your investor pipeline right here, right? And if you want to find people to talk to as LPs, you can go to Discover LPs to pitch. The AI will actually come up with the right LPs for your firm and fund, right? You said you want smaller, medium, or large. So we're just getting started. So I'm going to go after some smaller LPs, and it's going to build the profiles. And so you've probably seen this where you can like search them, add them, but I'll do it for you quickly, right? So it will even write the email for you. So let's go here, go into LinkedIn. You can search your first degree connections. You could look at someone, and then you can add them very easily. It's going to be interesting. He's got a funny name. Let's see how it does it. So it's looking here. It says, do you want to add this person? Sure. And then it will import a full information about this person and create a nice background for them. And then it will add it right to my. So if I go back over to my fundraising pipeline, let me close this to make some room. Uh, Okay, there he is, Daniel, and it even got rid of his weird name. It figured out what his correct name was. Now, I didn't import his email address consciously because I didn't want to uh, do that. So I'll just remove him. I want to show you how easy it is to do it. But let's email George Washington, right? And it says it has some notes there. George Washington, introduction, hello. Now, it's going to have a template that's pretty boring, but if I enable with generative AI transformation, it knows my voice of writing. It knows the complete history with this prospect, right? So it knows that because of the notes, meeting with Pete's Coffee on Alma. I really enjoyed our conversation. So what it's doing right now is the AI is looking at the entire history with the prospect, their background that might have been imported from LinkedIn, any meetings or anything that we had, and created a completely custom message to this prospect in my voice with everything relevant about them. And so this just saves a ton of time. But I'll show you some other really cool things. One other really cool things, and then off to questions. So the investor stuff is really cool. The deal stuff is real. Everything is really cool, but the deal stuff is super cool. So any deal in here you can enrich with AI. So you can put in a link, you can upload stuff, you can add your notes. And whenever you do that, it will go to the link, it will read whatever you upload, and it will build a more comprehensive profile for that thing. You can even forward in an email. So someone emailed me a deal. You get an email address up here. I copied that email address. I sent the deal in, and it created this profile here. So it had the information, description, the traction. This was all the industries, all just from an email. It figured out from the email that this person was the CEO, and it took it from the email the investor deck and put it in automatically in the file system. It scanned the investor deck, everything. So it imported the deal. In fact, it even scored the deal on how relevant it was to my thesis. Now, once I have all that information, I can do things like share the deal. And what's really cool is AI is going to write everything to share the deal now. So it says, okay, landings, it doesn't know my role. So I'm advising the company. Um, and it's my personal network. And so it wrote the why, it wrote all the people, what it's doing, the categories, everything. And then all I have to do is click that button, and then it's immediately shared with everyone else on the system. And if I go down here to opportunities, now this is locked right now because you have to share a deal to see a deal, but there are literally 169 deals that have been shared, and it will, and 42 are relevant to my thesis. So the AI looks at all 169 deals, it knows what my thesis is, and it says, ooh, this deal is probably relevant to you based on geography, sector, and stage. Okay. And so the power of AI, and there's so much more to show, guys. I want to make sure I get to your questions. The power of AI with venture capital is really unprecedented at this moment. uh, you can do kind of all the grunt work of a firm, all the accounting grunt work, all the modeling grunt work, all the deal analysis grunt work. I could show you one other really cool thing here. It will even write a deal memo for you. So all this stuff was written by AI, right? And it will even show you, hey, this was taken from page number 3 of the deck, page number 4 of the deck, and some web references. So it will write stuff for you about the deal, let's say in a deal memo, and it will even cite where it got the information from, so that if you want to double check what it wrote, which you definitely should, you can go and look at page 3 and page 4 of the deck and figure out what it did right and what it did wrong. Right? It's usually right because we've built the models in the AI in such a way that we don't have hallucination. And just I always do this, so maybe one day it will break. But who is Taylor Swift, right? And it really shouldn't know who Taylor Swift is, because let's see, maybe it will know, because Taylor Swift is, well, it's looking for an entity right now. Okay. It doesn't really know who Taylor Swift is. It's trying to look for people in the system that might be Taylor Swift, because this isn't some generic LLM designed to ask and answer questions related to like pop culture or whatever. This is a purpose built system for venture capital that is there to be like a co founder of your firm and fund, to help you do both tedious work and some high level thinking without actually um, leaving you in control to make the ultimate decision. Um, yeah, Sharon's asking about with team members, and yeah, this is a community deal memo tool. So when you edit the rating, all your team members can rate. You could see who's rated, etc. Um, See what they rated. So this is a multi-party deal memo tool, Sharon, able to be used. And I can just show that since you asked that. Under settings, you'll have users, and your users have different permissions, as you can see here. So you can control what the different users in your firm can have access to. You can have two-factor authentication enabled for higher security, etc. So the tool is multi-party. Now, I covered a lot of stuff, but before I get to questions, can we hear in the chat, was that pretty cool, guys? On a coolness, maybe you could 1 to 10 on the coolness factor, just say if it was pretty cool. I'd love to see. Okay, an 8. That's, I think it was better than 8, but I got some 10s and another 8, 10, 10, LOL, a 9. 9, I can live with a 9. 8, I feel unfulfilled. What would make it a 10 if you gave it an 8? If it were like, Dale, I now am in control. You can live on UBI. Would that be a 10? I kind of like having someone said yes. No, I don't want to live on UBI. I want to have some control. Um, More instructions on how to use. Well, there are no instructions. You just go to where it is and it does it for you. Someone saying it would be great if there were more instructions. The AI kind of just you go to the AI and the AI tells you how to do it. All right, let's go into some questions quickly. Go into the Q&A section, look at the most upvoted or hit the thumbs up. Emil's asking, is the AI generated fund model a familiar format for LPs? Yes. It spits out mm, a model that you could actually copy and paste into a deck. Literally, there's a copy and paste button, and it would be something that it gives different scenarios. It's actually corresponds to slides in your deck, to be exact, Emil. So that AI model is exactly what investors expect. Now, you can output it in different formats for more you, right? And we're going to add the ability very soon to just export it to Excel. Right now, you'd have to copy and paste it to Excel, which is not that hard. But soon we'll add the ability you can just download in Excel. Um, or Google Sheet or whatever. Do you think this will bring more? I think you wrote LB to circle. I think you meant LPs. I mean, look, there's a naturally larger number of LPs getting interested in venture capital right now. So these tools are actually helping managers to better deal with LPs. So as more LPs are coming into it, if managers get better at interacting with LPs, that should allow this leveling up to happen where more LPs are interested, managers get better at working with LPs, which helps get more LPs, and managers get better and more LPs. So I definitely see this as a virtuous cycle where better managers will get more LPs will bring more LPs, and managers will get better, and that will just keep reinforcing each other. Um, uh, Abdul Mashan is asking, how do you see agentic AI improve the traditional VC challenges? Um, Look, it's we're there, right? You're gonna have. I don't know if it's going to necessarily improve the traditional VC challenges. If you're a traditional VC, what you've done in the past is you've had to build out a very large organization with grunt workers, right? Because you need to do complex modeling, you need to do advanced distribution analysis, yeah, scenario analysis, evaluation of deals, blah, blah, blah. So the traditional VC structure has these decision makers at the top and a whole lot of grunt workers. And there's been a huge succession problem because the grunt workers are doing grunt work. They're not really trained to be these investors. And so you kind of have this weird partner level people and everyone else is grunt workers in VC. But you don't need the grunt workers anymore, right? So this is a pretty profound change in venture capital where the partners don't need the grunt workers, right? And so there you'll have much leaner venture capital firms, and then the people that work at those firms that aren't partners are going to do higher value work that put them in a position to become partners faster because they're doing deal sourcing, deal evaluation, right? These are very high level things. And so when you eliminate the grunt work from the firms, the whole industry is going to change. And the people that are going to win are the lean GPs with very high quality teams that can do multiple things, not just grunt work, and they're going to outperform the traditional funds. So you're going to see a very dramatic shift in venture capital like never before in history. How well does the tool do due diligence? I mean, it look, you have to okay, right? It's not there yet. Due diligence is more than just looking at websites, reading decks. What for looking at websites, reading decks, checking model assumptions, it's excellent. Okay. It's an 8 or 9 out of 10. But diligence is more than that. You got to talk with people, right? The AI doesn't do that yet. Um, and I'd be remiss for another generation or two to have an AI call a reference or do background reference checks. I think it can get there and it will get there, but it's not there yet. So it's very good at certain pieces of diligence and not good at other pieces of diligence for now. So there's still a human in the middle that's needed. Grace is asking for onboarding in terms of due diligence. What does it do KYC AML as well? Um, our system does KYC AML, but the AI does not. KYC AML, know your customer, and anti-monitoring law legislation is so KYC AML is you required for GPs to run a firm and required for LPs coming in. The results that come back are pretty hard to parse because they're like pass is pretty easy. So a lot of people pass, but sometimes it's like not pass. And it could be because there are two people with the same name, or it could be because there's an article in Chinese about someone and it's their Chinese name, and you got to figure out is it the same person. So KYC AML for the most part right now is automated as long as it's a pass. And if it's a fail, then you kind of need a human in the middle because the stuff that comes back as a fail can be very confusing. What makes your data better than competitors like Dakota, Fintrex, and others? Look, we have had experts for years because we've been around for years answering questions from managers around tax, legal, accounting, etc. for venture capital. And we've put all that knowledge into the system, and nobody else has anything like that in the market today, full stop, not even close. um, what was the user persona in mind? What's your ideal user flow? This is for aspiring venture capital managers or venture capital managers running firms. This is a tool built for VCs to run their firm and fund more efficiently. It is not a tool for anything else. It is purpose built to help venture capitalists launch firms. Now, we think there'll be 10,000 new firms launched over the next few years using tools like this to make your life a lot easier. So we're uh, very comfortable about this. Meet's asking, how does Decile keep the lead database effective given that all Decile users have access to the same LPs and might overload them with outreach? Um, your LPs are your LPs, right? There's some shared limited partners that we have under opportunities, but we don't give you their email address. They don't want to be emailed. You cannot just cold email people. You must know them. You must work through a connector to get to them. So we do have a database of limited partners, but you need to find your own way into them through a connector. Then you need to get to know them. So it's a multi-step process. So we're not worried about you over. If you cold email a bunch of LPs, you'll fail. It's that simple, and it's illegal. Have you thought about converting the lessons into AI generated videos? Yes, actually, we have. And I'll put in the chat right now, and I'll share my screen. We have a really cool. Let's mark that. All right, so I'm going to put it in the chat for everybody. We have this AI school here, school.decilegroup.com, launching your VC journey. Here you go.
All right, welcome. Today we're kicking off a brand new series, and it's all about what it really takes to launch your own venture capital fund. We're calling it the blueprint. So let me ask you, is this
So we have. So you can learn about venture capital with a podcast style and slides, all different topics, and so we have done that. Agentic AI option interface just looks like existing Decile AI. Now it's still one with more agentic AI capabilities. Correct. So we're not trying to make this robot on screen be like, what would you like to do? We're trying to make it feel like we're in this weird tween state right now between when you're going to still use a user interface and when you're going to just talk with stuff to have it done. So all of our agentic capabilities are built into the existing tools and feel very familiar, but there's agentic stuff going on in the back end. Eventually, you'll just have a chat based interface with all of your apps, including this, and you may even have a single interface. So you might just go to Grok and be like, I want to do a capital call. Grok will connect with our system through an MCP like server, and then Grok will, do what you ask it to just by talking. Um, I'm hearing from fellow VCs that they're using AI for smaller tasks. I know we're out of time, so we got to jump. Market research with lots of the AI needs to be orchestrated by them. So it's partially used and they have good results, but okay. Guys, that's because commercially available AI does not know venture capital. Okay? You can't use Grok, you can't use OpenAI, you cannot use Claude to do VC tasks because it doesn't understand VC, right? It doesn't have any training data. So you need to use a product like Decile Hub that understands VC in order to do these VC activities. Otherwise, garbage in, garbage out. So if it doesn't know VC and you ask it to do a VC task, it's not going to do a very good job. Now, we didn't get to all of your questions, but I'll tell you something that you can do. If you go to decilegroup.com, we have an AI down here. You could ask any question you have, and it will give you the answer if we didn't get to it today, based on that knowledge base we discussed. We have another session coming in, so I do have to go. Thank you, everyone. This was a lot of fun. I love showing what we're working on. It is just awesome. Thank you, everyone. Bye, guys.